The department warns of, quote, the potential for terrorist attacks, demonstrations, or violent actions against U.S. citizens and their interests. Now, one group fueling those concerns is Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is now threatening both Israel and the U.S. and recently led a riot near Beirut where attendees were chanting, "You got it, death to Israel, death to America." Here with reaction, Florida Congressman Mike Waltz and former State Department spokeswoman Morgan Ortega. She worked with Mike Pompeo. Congressman, let me begin with you. How real is this threat, and what would you tell the American people traveling abroad, and why is it so widespread?
Well, Sean, I would tell every one of them to be incredibly cautious now. But, Sean, I hold the mainstream media that completely showed their true colors and their bias and how they responded to this explosion in the hospital in Gaza over the last 24 hours. I hold them completely responsible for this. This wasn't just an oops, we made a mistake, you know, let's put a correction on the next page of the New York Times or the back of the front page. This was incendiary. It caused blood in the streets. There are people storming our embassies because of the misinformation that they grabbed onto. And others keep asking, would they have done this if Putin and Russia had said Ukraine had bombed a hospital? Would they have paused for a moment and said, Putin has a long history of lying and gotten to the facts, but yet they didn't do that with a terrorist group, Hamas. They immediately ran with it. And my other question is for President Biden. He just did it again in his speech. Why does he keep raising human rights in the same breath as Israel? Did he say that about Ukraine? No. Did he say that about any other ally? No. Why does he keep saying that about Israel? And the only thing I could think of is pandering to the progressive anti-Semitic left. But otherwise, it makes no sense. And now you have Americans all over the world in danger. We have embassies they're talking about evacuating. You have riots in the streets. This is disgraceful. It should be called out. There should be firings and accountability. And yet we have a shoulder shrug, even from members of Congress. It's truly unacceptable.
Morgan, you work very closely with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He was on the program last night. Hezbollah is claiming that they're 1,000 times stronger than they were before. If that's true, that just means that the Iranians have been arming them. Let's just compare and contrast. If it was the Trump administration and it was Secretary of State Pompeo, what would the message be back to Hezbollah, basically threatening everybody?
Well, we would tell them if you touch the hair on the head of an American, then it'll be your head for doing it. And that's exactly what Mike Pompeo and President Trump did in the last administration. We let the Islamic Republic of Iran know that they would be held accountable for any loss of American life. And it didn't matter if one of their proxies like Hamas or Hezbollah or Shia militias in Iraq were the ones culpable or whether it was directly from the Quds Force, they would be held responsible just the same, Sean. So listen, when you look at what Hezbollah is claiming, they could have anywhere from 60,000, Sean, to 100,000 fighters. The last time Israel took on Hezbollah, it's been a few years, it was in 2006, and that was not an easy war. So they do have a lot of capabilities, what's more concerning is the amount of weapons, especially the amount of rockets, Sean, that they have been able to stockpile. We know that since the beginning of the Biden administration, for 3 years now, the economic sanctions that we put in place in the Trump administration have not been enforced. So that's around $80 billion more in oil revenue that the Islamic Republic of Iran can use to fund Hamas, to fund Hezbollah, to give them more of these weapons to stockpile. We also know that Iran has expanded their use and their capabilities of ballistic missiles. We also know that they have expanded their ability and made suicide drones. These same suicide drones, they are shipping to Russia. Russia is using them in Ukrainian cities against innocent civilians. So in many ways, we are funding both sides of the war as it relates to Russia and Ukraine. We don't know what's going to happen with this aid that we're sending in
Morgan, you're saying
for Hamas, and we could be funding both sides there.
Biden's policies, by being so permissive and allowing Iran to get their oil on the world market again, has enriched them to the tune of, $80–100 billion. That's serious money to foment terror, and they're already the #1 state sponsor of terror. You talk about Hezbollah and their stockpile of weapons. Haven't the Israelis also been preparing for this day? Aren't they very aware that they have needed more munitions to prepare for a 2-front, maybe 3-front war?
Yeah, they're a tiny country. They've had to take on multiple front wars. We've seen that on the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. It's still, listen, it's still a behemoth of a challenge. They receive a lot of military aid from the United States, but they actually purchase a lot of our weaponry as well. And there's a lot of military capabilities that we share between both nations. But make no mistake, this is a tiny nation, Sean. This is a nation like the size of New Jersey. So no matter how prepared Israel is, you still know that Hezbollah, and not just Hezbollah, by the way, but the Shia proxies that Iran has throughout the region have the capability to inflict immense harm on the civilian populations in Israel. This is going to be a bloody, nasty, and horrific fight for the people of Israel. And that's why we need to be with them not only today, not only tomorrow, but in the coming weeks and months as world opinion tries to turn on them quickly, as we just saw with the hospital bombing.
Yeah, they turned on them and they did nothing. Imagine when they do have to fight back. Congressman Waltz, what is your recommendation to the U.S.? What should our policy be? Well, if you were talking to Joe Biden, I know he's asleep right now. He had his warm milky. What would you tell him tonight?
Sean, you have to raise costs with Iran. You have to make them believe that this will cost them too much. They will suffer. That's what President Trump did when their Iranian-backed militias in Iraq attacked our embassy, killed an American, attacked our shipping. President Trump didn't hit the militias back. He hit the Iranian field general Soleimani, and then deterrence and peace was restored. So the Israelis could take out Hezbollah, could take out Hamas, but Iran will keep pumping them with weapons and money all day long. It's only till we go after the head of the snake and deter and make them feel the cost that that peace will be restored.
Amen. I agree completely. Thank you both. Appreciate you being with us.